What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Adventure Outpost. In today's adventure, it is July, so you know what that means. We are officially at the halfway point for the year, and it is time to take a look at our rankings so far for the year. Looking at our favorites, some honorable mentions, and our least favorite movies so far for the year. We are going to do our top 25 so far for the year of 2022. I'll give you the 5 honorable mentions that just missed out on the top 25, and then we'll finish it off with my top 10 least favorite movies so far for the month of 2022. The month of 2022, you dumb bastard, for the year of 2022. So we're gonna dive right in, but before we do that, as always, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. Smash that like button so we can rock that algorithm, and without further ado, let's rock on with this party. So our 5 honorable mentions, the movies that just missed out on the top 25, is The Bad Guys coming in at number 30, Moonfall coming in at number 29, The Fallout coming in at number 27, The Lost City coming in at number 26, and Jurassic World Dominion coming in at 26. This one was 27. Learn how to count, you dumb bastard. Now we're gonna kick off our top 25. I'm not gonna do too much on each one of these movies, obviously, because we got a lot of movies to get through, and I don't need this taking up fucking forever. And you can always go look at all my monthly videos to see my real thoughts on all of those movies. I'll link some shit all over the place if I feel like it. Other than that, you can go back and look. So we're not going to take too much time on this. But starting us off at number 25 is The Black Phone, the horror thriller from Scott Derrickson. This was a fun little horror thriller that you could check out. That was a fun summer movie. Coming in at number 24 was the Hulu movie Fresh. It was Daisy Edgar-Jones and Sebastian Stan, where he was a cannibal that was trying to murder her. That was a fun little thriller too. That was really good. I wish that movie was in theaters. I would have enjoyed catching that in theaters with a group of people. Number 23 came out all the way back in January. It was The Tender Bar. It was a Ben Affleck movie. I think about a young author's time living here on Long Island. It's an existential movie. We know how much I love my existential movies about people just learning about a little slice of life and coming of age. So that's a fun movie that you can check out. I believe it's on Hulu. That was a fun one that came out at the beginning of the year in January. Number 22 is Death on the Nile. While a little slower pace for me, and obviously I could see as we get towards the end of the year, these movies are going to be buffed out of the top 25. There was still enough goods in this movie to enjoy it for me to help hit it up in this higher mode. I love what Kenneth Branagh did with the movie, Hercule Poirot. I can watch dozens of those movies of just watching him solve mysteries. So that was a huge plus for me. Number 21 was the Disney Plus movie Chippendale Rescue Rangers, an absolutely blast. This was a beautiful spiritual successor to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Just a fun movie that combined animation and live action to just stunningly great effects. This was a super fun movie that I highly recommend you check out. Number 20 was The Adam Project. It was a Netflix movie from Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds. This was a fun little sci-fi time travel movie about Ryan Reynolds going back in time to try and stop a mistake that his dad made, and try and kind of reverse the space-time continuum back to its level playing field. It's surprisingly heartfelt. It's a much better performance from Ryan Reynolds than you're used to. Not him going so much full Ryan Reynolds, but giving him enough scenes that let him act a bit more and show a little bit more emotion than he normally does, with like it just being like, hey, it's Deadpool in a movie. So that went a highway for me in this film. Number 19 is the Michael Bay action movie Ambulance. I know it is a balls to the walls, dumb ass action movie, but sometimes that's all you need, baby. And Jake Gyllenhaal in there, Eliza Gonzalez, I think her name is, and my man Yaya, they really carry this movie and help elevate it past what normally would just be a simple B movie. Number 18 was Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Still, for all the things that I shit on in that movie and all the stuff that I still shit on with Marvel, it still managed to hit this high, mostly just because there hasn't been that many good movies, and there still was enough pros in this movie to warrant it raising it up to this level. I still think Benedict Cumberbatch is great as Doctor Strange. I think all the actors in it were definitely doing it. They're all the cons are just enough to keep it from ever hitting like a top 10 or getting close to it, but still gave it enough to still rocket here into the top 25. Number 17 was the movie Lightyear, Pixar's latest effort that is not doing well in theaters at all. It is such a shame. The movie, it's good. It's definitely more deserving of a box office than what it's been given right now. I think the marketing did not help that movie whatsoever, which is a super shame because there is a fun movie in here. I think definitely was a little bit aimed probably too much to adults, and the marketing didn't do enough to convince kids to drag their parents to it. It was definitely much more of it was like an adult Interstellar for like kids. It definitely was a tough movie to market for them. Number 16 is the Scream reboot, requel, whatever the hell you want to call it. Came out way back in January. It was a fun horror movie. Obviously, the first two are always my favorites, but I still think this new one had enough in the tank. I had to click something on my phone there, so sorry about that. I still think this new one had enough in the tank to warrant it being made. I don't know so much about doing another one now, Scream 6, but this one was good enough for what it was. I think it's definitely going to have diminishing returns now doing another one. I think we might be getting too much of a good thing at this point, but this one was fun enough to warrant itself right here. Starting us off for the top 15 was the Bob's Burgers movie. Just a absolutely delightful time at the theater. This movie, if you love the TV show, you'll love the movie. It is just so much fun. I love that they didn't try to do too much. It was basically just let's make an episode that just happens to be like 95 minutes. That was just absolutely great. It's one of my favorite cartoons. I freaking love the movie. It was so much fun. If you like Bob's Burgers, you absolutely have to go out and check that movie. Coming in at number 14 is the biopic Elvis with Tom Hanks and Austin Butler. We are two lost souls reaching for eternity. Tom Hanks doing wild Tom Hanks moves in that movie. Austin Butler absolutely committing to that role. He is a fucking revelation. He is surely a lock-in for a nomination at the very least. The movie is an absolutely chaotic roller coaster, but it is something that needs to be seen to be believed. It is something that's never boring. It was a wildly entertaining film. Coming in at number 13 is Spiderhead. It is the thriller from Joseph Kosinski, the first of two movies of his that we will be seeing on this list, starring Chris Hemsworth and Miles Teller. This was a fun, neat little thriller. Thriller is one of my favorite genres, as you can see. It's been chock full of this top 25 so far. It's been a bunch of thrillers. This one was a lot of fun for me. I enjoyed it a lot. It's definitely one you should check out if you are a fan of any of the people that I just mentioned, or if you love thrillers. Coming in at number 12 is the Adam Sandler basketball movie Hustle, a movie that I never would have ever assumed would be number 12. I thought we would be talking about it in my top 10 worst for the year because it's Adam Sandler movies after all. But the man does what he did with Uncut Gems, and he gives us a heartfelt roller coaster ride of a performance, and he gives us a movie that is actually worthwhile watching and is a super enjoyable experience and will certainly be added to the lexicon of great sports movies. Coming in at number 11 is the World War II drama on Netflix, Operation Mincemeat. It tells the story of the group of people that staged the body that convinced the Germans to move off of the battlefield that they were on so that we could come in and do our large-scale invasion with minimal casualties. It is a really good drama movie, tense in some spots, really well acted, just a really enjoyable movie to watch. I love World War II movies, even ones that aren't just like battle-prone, that show kind of more of the behind-the-scenes aspect. So this movie really hit the mark for me. Starting off our top 10. Top 10, baby, let's do it. Starting off the top 10 is the horror movie X. This movie was another one that was just an absolute wild ride from start to finish, telling the story about a group of porno actors and writers and directors who rent a cabin at somebody's farmhouse so that they can go up there and film a porno. And then the old people that live in the house start doing some really weird and creepy shit and start murdering the people one by one. That's all I want to say about that movie, because if you haven't seen it, you absolutely should go watch it and know as little as possible going into it, because it is one wild ride. Coming in at number 9 is a movie that is near and dear to my heart. It's a franchise that's near and dear to my heart. I was raised on it. It is a part of me. It is Jackass Forever. I can watch the Jackass boys all the time. They never grow old for me. I grew up on them. I watched the show as a kid, saw all the movies in theaters. It is a franchise that is near and dear to me. Their brand of dumbass humor just speaks to me. And this movie is an absolute wild ride. Some really intense stunts that are like tough to watch at times, and some of the most hilarious pranks that they've ever pulled on each other. The Silence of the Lambs prank is probably one of the best ones they've ever did. It's so goddamn funny. Coming in at number 8 is Turning Red, the Disney Pixar movie that they released onto Disney Plus. Tells the story of a young girl who is nearing puberty, and as she hits puberty, instead of dealing with the woman issues that normally does, she turns into a giant red panda thanks to a curse from her family and their generational trauma. And she has to deal with becoming this red panda whenever her emotions flare. It is a wonderful analogy for coming of age and dealing with puberty and hitting this point in your life where your emotions are starting to become very inflared and you're trying to like discover who you're going to be in that time. It is just a super enjoyable movie. It is funny. I really love the animation in it, how they mix it with the kind of like anime. It was just a really enjoyable movie, and you can tell that a lot of care was put into it. And it's obviously a very important story to the writer-director. It just blew me away. Number 7 is a movie that came out all the way back in January and has still managed to hold a spot here in the top 10, and it is The Tragedy of Macbeth. Came out on Apple TV. I believe it was Joel Coen who made it, of the Coen brothers. Only one of them had anything to do with it. I believe it was Joel. Could be Ethan. Who knows? Obviously, I didn't do my homework. But it was a movie that even back then has still managed to keep this spot. I was blown away by the movie. I thought the production value and the way the movie was shot with its cinematography on that soundstage just looks absolutely incredible. The performances are fucking phenomenal. Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand especially just absolutely crush it. It is just a fantastic fucking movie. I really hope it gets a physical release. Criterion, whoever, somebody please get the rights and release that shit on physical media, because I would love to watch it in my movie room. Coming in at number 6 is my favorite movie for the month of June that we just did the video. It is Cha-Cha Real Smooth, another existential movie. I love my existential movies. This one really hit home for me, really enjoyed it. Just a super fun, enjoyable movie that teaches you a little bit, gives you a little bit of life lessons, lets you take some of that stuff out into the real world with you. It was just an absolutely fun and enjoyable movie. Coming in, we're starting the top 5, baby. Top 5. Kicking us off at number 5 is The Batman, the latest adventure in the Batman franchise. This one, a solo outing starring Robert Pattinson, directed by Matt Reeves. This movie is one hell of a ride. It is great seeing Batman being Detective Batman. I love the dark aesthetic of the movie. I love the fact that it rains the entire fucking movie. Paul Dano as the Riddler is fucking incredible. I just watched The Girl Next Door the other day, and seeing him there and what he's grown to now is just absolutely phenomenal. Everyone is firing on all cylinders in that movie. It is just absolute perfection. These 5 movies, especially that we're going to go into, are just absolute perfection. But kicking it right off ahead of that at number 4 is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Just an absolute balls to the wall love letter of the action genre of Nicolas Cage, of just those insanity-laced movies from the 90s that were just so star-studded and enjoyable, and this movie follows suit perfectly. Pedro Pascal is an absolute revelation. Put that man in fucking everything. He's an absolute gem. Nicolas Cage just doing Nicolas Cage. He's just so funny and heartfelt and tender and over the top and out of control. The man just can do everything. He is just an absolute trip. The movie is so much fun. I was worried that it was going to be a little too hokey and over the top. Like, I knew it was either going to be like fucking really good or really bad. There was going to be no middle ground. And I am happy to say that it is fucking the latter. It is really good, and it hits right here at number 4 for us. Coming in at number 3 is Robert Eggers' latest movie, The Northman. This movie was a fucking trip. The cinematography in this movie is probably some of the best I've seen in like the last five movies. In the last 5 years. It is just absolutely gorgeous. Some of the shot selections in this movie are just insane. The fight in the volcano, some of the scenes when he goes to just the small town to like kind of blend in. The big scale fight in the beginning, like when he catches that fucking spear and just turns around and throws it back at the guy, like all in just one shot. It's just fucking incredible. Like, the movie is so good. Alexander Skarsgård is absolutely phenomenal in it. Nicole Kidman is absolutely phenomenal. I think every performance in it is really good, but those two especially, just putting in possibly career best. Like, they are just freaking so good in that movie, and it's just an absolute phenomenon. I love that movie. It's a shame it didn't do better at the box office, but it was just an absolutely fantastic movie in my eyes. Coming in next at number 2. Number 2 and 1 were tough, man. It was really hard to pick between these two. Honestly, to me, they're interchangeable. You catch me on a certain day and I might say number 2 is my number 1 and my number 1 is my number 2 and vice versa. It all depends on how I'm feeling when you catch me. But these two movies are absolute masterpieces in my eyes. And they both are deserving of the top spot. So honestly, whether we say it's 2 and 1 or 1 and 1A, these two movies are absolute master classes in film study and film history and what you should be watching and enjoying. But for now, we'll say it here with number 2 is Top Gun Maverick. Just an absolute revelation of a movie that is doing insane at the box office right now. It is unreal how well that movie is doing. I am so happy that movie is doing so well. Shows that if you put the time and effort in, movies other than Marvel and Star Wars and DC and superheroes will make money. People want to see stuff like that, but you have to give us a reason to be there. And Top Gun Maverick exceeds on all fronts. It is just a fantastic movie. It is perfectly written. Tom Cruise is just fucking phenomenal in it. Miles Teller is phenomenal in it. Jennifer Connelly is phenomenal in it. Everyone is just so good in that movie. The practical effects work in that movie is absolutely incredible. Everything that they all put themselves through is just so great. That's what helps make this movie just such a revelation to watch, is just knowing the effort that they put in to bring this adventure to us. It goes so much farther than just going to see the latest Marvel movie where you know that 99% of it was just filmed on a green screen in Georgia. It's that extra, that extra meat that just gives it to you, that lets you know that that's something special that you're watching. And this movie was something special. But there can only be a number 1. I know I always say it, but I mean, honestly, I feel like there could be 2 number 1s at this point, Top Gun being one of it, and this one at number 1, which is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Just a movie that absolutely floored me when I saw it. It is just the most inventive, clever, outrageous, funny, heartfelt. It is everything you want in a movie. It takes you on a roller coaster ride. It brings you through every emotion. You're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, it gives you everything. It's just the perfect, complete movie. It is a movie that, honestly, we should have expected Doctor Strange to be. Like, you call yourself Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but you go to 3 different timelines and all 3 of them are just different stages of New York. but Everything Everywhere All at Once has maybe a third of the budget, and they managed to seem more of the multiverse of madness than Doctor Strange ever could. Like, this movie is just absolutely bonkers, and it takes place all in one setting, which is like the IRS building, but manages to consistently pop us in and out to all these different timelines and all these different types of worlds, and just it does so much with the little budget that it had, and it makes it seem so much more grandiose than Doctor Strange ever could have hoped to be. It's crazy. It's a testament to what you can do. It's not how much money you're given, but it's how creative you can get with the money that's been given to you. And Everything Everywhere All at Once and Top Gun, just the two best movies to come out this year. It's too hard to pick. They're both number one. They're both number one. They're just both too good. They're both absolute masterclasses. The two best movies that have come out for this year, the year of 2022. And now, before I leave you, I will give you the top 10 worst that I've seen for this year. We're not really going to go too much into them, but just know that they're all crap. They're all were a slog to get through, whether it was shitty dialogue, terrible writing, bad performances, or any mixture of the bunch. These are just movies that did not hit their mark. And it's a shame to say, but I mean, hey, not everything's going to be great. Number 10 is the new Cheaper by the Dozen remake. It's just lazy, no reason for it to exist. Number 9 was the thriller on Hulu, No Exit. It just tried to be a claustrophobic thriller that just wildly missed the mark and just ended up being super boring and very predictable. Number 8 was another thriller, The Weekend Away. It's a movie that you've seen a million times. It just seems, it's about a girl overseas whose friend goes missing after a night of partying, and she's got to figure out what happened to her. Been there, done that, and just not as well as some of other movies have. Number 7 is the romantic comedy Marry Me. Has some moments, but for the most part, this is a slog of a romantic comedy that just completely missed its mark. Number 6 is the superhero movie Morbius. Oh my God, that movie. The less said about that movie, the better. One of the most surefire misses of this decade of superhero movies. I thought we were done making superhero movies like this, but apparently Sony keeps finding ways to sneak them in. Number 5 is Studio 666. It feels a little sad to even say that, considering what's happened to Taylor Hawkins since that movie has come out. Rest in peace. But that it doesn't negate just how much of a slog this movie was to get through. Number 4 is Home Team, the latest Kevin James, Happy Madison movie. I think that's all I really have to say about that. Number 3 is the latest Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Just an absolute boring, stupid, just terrible. Somehow a lot of people were like raving about it, but to me, it's just terribly written. Has way too much CGI for killing. It's just not done well. Practical effects with just a really stupid storyline. I think the best thing it had going for it was that it was only 80 minutes. Number 2, Senior Year. Just an absolutely dumb comedy starring Rebel Wilson, where she wakes up out of a coma and thinks she's still like a 17-year-old girl and re-enrolls in high school to finish out her senior year. Just filled with tired cliches of what you would expect from that movie. Just not funny stuff at all. But there can only be one, and this, so far for the year of 2022, the worst movie that I've seen is the Netflix movie The Bubble, Judd Apatow movie about a bunch of people that have to try and film a movie during COVID. It's just, I've said it time and time again, I don't want to see movies that have anything to do with COVID. We don't fucking care. That was terrible shit to live through. None of us want to see it in our entertainment. I don't want to go to a movie to turn my brain off and have to remember that fucking terrible 2 to 3 years, stuff that we're still living through till today. We don't want to see it, and especially to try and do a comedy about it, because you know what? It's really fucking stupid. And the movie is just filled with all of these really dumb bits and pieces about like filming on a movie set, but as people that just go to see movies and nobody who like works on the set, it's just stuff that goes over people's head. Like it's it just feels like a movie that just constantly reaches for the lowest common denominator. Like it's just full of like young kids with like TikTok dancing and just out of touch like older adults, and just trying to make fun of like silly like COVID protocols and all. It's just brutal, and it's over 2 hours long. Judd Apatow he needs a better editor, because all of his movies somehow is a guy who makes comedy movies, but I've never seen him make a comedy that was under 2 hours. So somebody's got to get his editor on the phone or lock Judd Apatow out of the editing room so that they could beef those bad boys down, because The Bubble is a movie that absolutely needed to be as short as possible. That is a movie that should not have been longer than 90 minutes at all, and that's giving it a berth of 90 minutes. Even shorter than that would have been totally fine with me too. But that's my list for the top 25 so far for this year, some honorable mentions, and our top 10 worst of the year so far. It's been an interesting year so far. Definitely better than last year and the year before that. I think this is the first year where we're finally starting to feel that we're finally getting back into the swing of things after COVID and all that stuff, and the theaters are finally bouncing back, and we're finally getting some good movies back in theaters again that make it worthwhile to make that trip out. So we're definitely getting a decent amount of movies. We still got a ways to go to get back to where we were before 2020. Like, we definitely have a long ways to go before we can reach the highs that 2019 was giving in terms of commercial value and critical appeal for movies again. But each year we're taking a step closer, and I think this top 25 was definitely had a bunch of picks in there. I think right away off the bat, you're looking at your top 5 right there. Those are all movies that could go into somebody's like top 100, and I would totally respect it. I mean, for me at least, Top Gun, Maverick, and Everything Everywhere absolutely go into my top 100 of all time. I don't think any of the other ones just yet. I might have to watch them a few more times, but those two at the very least are going in there, and that's really good, because that doesn't happen often for me. New movies don't often break into my top 100, so for 2 of them to do it in the span of a couple of months definitely shows to the progress that we're making in getting back into the swing of things in our movie theaters. So that will do it for all of us here at The Outpost. Be sure to check back in at the end of the year when we can finally tally it up, and we'll do our top 25 for the entire year and see if any of these hold on to their places. If Tragedy of Macbeth can survive the entire year in the top 10, we'll have to wait and see. But until that next video, you have been you, I have been me. These are the movies that we love so much. Get your ass out to the theater and watch some movies. And until next time, adventure on.